Welcome back. This segment of the show brought to you by A.G. Hines Company. If you're planning a do-it-yourself or home improvement project, don't waste money somewhere else. Start your project with a trip downtown to A.G. Hines Company. They get the right materials in your hand at the right price. aghines.com to learn more. All right, Chuck Cavaleras. Tennessee's now 17-5. We've seen them win with defense. We've seen them win with offense. We've seen the occasional stumble, like most teams out there. How has your view of this team evolved over the last couple of months as they head right into the heat of the schedule?
Boy, I tell you what, it depends on which game you're talking about or you're asking the question. After South Carolina, we're thinking, goodness gracious, they only scored, like 59 points or whatever it was. Now you're looking at it and you're thinking this team can do some damage. And I think Jimmy had touched on it. You got to get more people more involved, right? It just can't be Dalton Connect because he's going to wear down some. Anybody is. I think you're still looking at this being a legitimate threat to finish at least in the top 4 in the SEC, maybe even higher than the 4th spot, and to go on and go at least to the Sweet 16. I think you're back to where we were when we kind of started. You got at least that much talent. Where it goes from there, we'll see.
So your view hasn't really evolved that much.
No, it really, because it changes so much. We know the talent's
there.
Well,
that's basketball.
Right.
It's the roller
exactly.
coaster. That's why I was thinking, even out the high points and low points and tell me where you are.
I think we're right back to what I thought.
All right, and Jimmy, you feel like higher. You feel a little better.
I do, because when I look at their lineup, they have so many different weapons on offense. Offense has been kind of a problem that's eliminated them from the NCAA tournament because they had trouble getting it in the basket. They got 4 starters that have had a 20-point game this year. They got, and I don't know that Vescovy has, but he's had 20-point games in his career.
Yeah.
So you've got a lot of offensive weapons.
And he's back to getting double digits on most nights now, too.
Yes, and he's playing solid. Even if it's a 10 or 12-point game, he's getting you some assists. He's doing other things. He plays with a really good basketball IQ. So I see a lot more weapons on offense. Depth-wise, I think that Gainey can help you. Meshack can help you. Owaka can help you coming off the bench. I do wish they would play the reserves a little bit more. But anyway, I do think the ceiling is higher for this team. I like where they are right now.
I like the fact they can win in a lot of different ways. And this goes back to that. I do it every year with the Ken Palm. Those are the Ken Palmer rankings. The teams that make it to the Final Four and the Elite Eight typically really good, top 25 in offensive efficiency, top 25 in defensive efficiency. And Mark, we've seen at times where Tennessee's defense can absolutely smother people. We've seen at times when they just overrun you with offense. To me, you don't know what you're going to get night to night in the NCAA tournament, and I get that. But the fact that you have more ways to win, it's not last year, well, we got to get them in the mud and slow them down. This year, you don't have to get them in the mud. You can win this way, you can win that way, and if things aren't going right, you also, for the first time, have a guy you can just throw the ball to and hope that he may be able to carry you through a game. I like the fact that this team wins in a lot more ways than I ever anticipated.
Yeah, I think going into the season, when you look at this team, because of Dalton Connect and Adu, I think those are the 2 guys that their games have really stepped up from what I anticipated early on in the year. However, I still look at these games that we've lost, the other teams, Mississippi State, and you even look at South Carolina, they were equaled our physicality, maybe even were a little bit more physical, and they controlled tempo.
Yes.
And then you also look at, we've always had those games where we go 3, 4, 5, 6 minute scoring droughts. And I think we've solved that a little bit more this year, but you've seen it quite often when we've struggled in games with those scoring droughts. And so to me, I've always thought we could be an Elite Eight team. I've never said we're going to be a Final Four. I think that's really hard.
Yeah.
So my perspective has not changed. I just worry about if a team goes zone and they control tempo, that gets us out of rhythm, and then we have those scoring droughts that our defense keeps us in the game, but those are the times that we end up losing.
One thing, let me ask you this question. This is a side note, and I'm not disagreeing with you because we've talked about the long scoring droughts on this show before. How much of that, though, is we are focusing on Tennessee? If we did a show in Baton Rouge every Sunday and we're watching LSU, would we find that LSU a lot of times has 5- and 6-minute droughts as well, or is that simply a Tennessee thing in your opinion?
No, surely every team's got droughts.
But that's still a concern.
But for me, it is because our offense was really good last night. Guys were making shots, but we were moving the ball, moving bodies. Mm-hmm. And if we got Dalton, we got to learn how to play with a great player that can score, and that does not get the other guys stationary. and you've got to learn how to play that within the system so everybody's still feeling involved in the offense.
And one other thing we didn't mention in the first segment, but I'll throw it out here because we get a lot of Kentucky people that watch this show, Whitley County, Bell County up there. Part of what helped Tennessee last night also is Kentucky cannot play defense. Their defense is terrible, and I think they're sitting there right now. They're like, yes, you didn't win it, we lost it. I guarantee you that's how they feel.
Especially on what those, and Jimmy mentioned it earlier, those inbound play. I mean, you get at least 10 points off just gifts almost.
But I've seen Tennessee go to Lexington in my lifetime and lose to a lot of different types of Kentucky teams. So, yeah, their defense isn't very good. That doesn't mean you're guaranteed to go out and score 100 on them like Tennessee
And
did.
the starting point guard was out last night too. Was mentioned that for Kentucky. He'll be back.
What are we getting all this Kentucky love for? Forget Kentucky. We whooped them.
When we come back, we've got all the NCAA matters coming up to talk about. But first, we're going to look at bracketology. Joe Lenardi said some good things about the Vols last night. Has he moved them to a one line? We'll discuss. We'll talk about the SEC standings and then also a scouting report from Mr. Pankratz on Tennessee's 2 games this week, LSU and then at Texas A&M. Come on back on the Sports Source.